Alright, so the focus of this video is going to be Market Cipher multi-timeframe analysis using Market Cipher on multiple timeframes to get as clear of a picture as you can and to come up with ideas across multiple timeframes. A lot of the times when I use Market Cipher, it is within a more local context, and I'm really focusing on using Market Cipher in conjunction with my ideas within that context. So a lot of my trades with Market Cipher don't rely on, using all of the time frames available, like the weekly down to the 5 minute. But I still do top-down analysis regularly with Market Cipher. I think it, helps me to just get an overall feel for the market. Just clicking through the time frames and seeing how they develop maybe once a day. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I will start on the weekly time frame. And the weekly hasn't developed much. I talked about this in my last video, how we see, in my opinion, more signs of, just a cool off in the market rather than a reversal. I don't see anything that I would consider a reversal sign on the weekly time frame. We see momentum waves putting in higher highs along with price action. We see money flow in a very healthy state. It's still very strong at the moment. It is locally getting a little move to the downside, cooling off a little bit, and I do think it's very possible that this move to the downside with momentum, this slight cool off with money flow is just that, a cool off in the market. And at any point, we could see a very quick turnaround if VWAP crosses up, if we get a green dot here, if money flow starts curving back to the upside. We know that sentiment can change very quickly. For example, I remember when I was looking at this on the lower time frames, by the time we had this wick to the upside and then we had reversed all the way back down and started taking out the lows of the range, I was starting to get a little worried. I was thinking that we may see, a bit of a larger retracement. But if you watch my videos back then, I was a little skeptical of bearishness when we started pulling back up into this range. And very quickly, we went from, people worried about a larger retracement as we took out the low to now the VWAP is crossing up. We printed a green dot on the weekly time frame. Money flow is still in a healthy uptrend. And we very quickly reversed that bearish sentiment. It was a very aggressive bullish move. And, that is just to show that things can turn around very quickly. And so, me considering the possibility of just a drastic turnaround in the market, another, aggressive move back up towards all-time highs, I think that's very possible. I'm also considering the possibility of retracements further to the downside because we are in a bit of a different situation right now. We have taken out Bitcoin's all-time high, and for the most part, we just wicked above it. If I put a horizontal line here, most of the price action above this line is wicks. We did get one close, but that was after a bunch of wicks above the high. Taking out significant swing points like this can lead to larger retracements, can lead to large reversals. And obviously, I'm not going to be making any decisions based on the weekly time frame alone. So let's go down in time frames. Let's go to the daily. And here I see a few things. One, I see a bearish divergence as we put in the high. It was a slight bear div with momentum. It was not a bear div with money flow. Money flow continued to put in higher highs even after we topped out. But we do have at least a bit of a topping sign with the divergence at the high, and we have seen money flow take a drastic turn to the downside. Locally, it is even putting in lower lows in the red. So at the moment, it's not looking great. But you don't always get the ideal reversal signals from these high time frames. Like I'd say the ideal reversal signal would be taking out the low, maybe even taking out the low a couple more times, and really seeing divergences as we put in lower lows, seeing the money flow start to curve back to the upside and diverge on that last low. Those are typically the more confident bottom signals, but you don't always get that on the higher time frames. For example, looking at this significant low before we broke out of this range and eventually got to move up to all-time highs, we did not see the ideal bottom signals. If I put a vertical line here and zoom in on Market Cipher, there was no divergences with momentum. Money flow at the time was putting in lower lows. It even went on to put in lower lows following the low as price ranged for a little bit. And within this range, eventually the money flow started to curve back to the upside, and by the time it crossed and started getting moves into the green, we started a very aggressive move to the upside that ended up marking a bottom. My point is that the daily time frame can look like crap and we still can produce a significant bottom from that point. Now, the difference is here we had a very clear range that we were trading in for many months, and we had just taken out the low of the range right here with this wick. So we did something significant, whereas here we are kind of just in the middle of this very aggressive move. It's not really the ideal place to, put in a low, but, you could say we have grabbed liquidity from these lows and from the range low. And I think I want to group these ideas into, their own kind of section. I want to look at this as, my more macro analysis, which at this point is pretty unclear. I'm not sure if price has to continue retracing to the downside, but I am aware that it's possible we have put in the low, or that we may put in the low soon if we, take out the low once more, or once more again. Maybe we begin ranging. I'm aware that we could be approaching a bottom point. So now I want to zoom in to what I call the more midterm time frames, and let's really focus on what is happening locally here. So just like with the daily time frame, we didn't really see clear bottom signals in terms of divergences. On the daily time frame, momentum put in its lowest point as price did. Also, money flow was moving downwards as we put in our low. It was looks like it crossed into the red and was putting in lower lows in the red, which is the same thing that we see on the 4-hour. I put a vertical line there. Money flow was putting in lower lows, and momentum was at its lowest point. So makes me feel, maybe a little iffy about this low. And following that low, we have seen money flow get a move to the upside. We saw a little uptrend in the green with money flow. It came back down, kind of found support on the 0 line. And here's where things get a little interesting. So as we just took out this recent low, with a very aggressive move too, we got basically a straight shot back down here. We did form some bullish divergences, not just with momentum, as momentum put in a higher low, price put in a lower low, but money flow was also increasing at the time, and it was increasing in the green. Usually when I look for divergences, I expect money flow to be in the red. I look for a higher low in money flow as price puts in a lower low up here. But here we had money flow in the green. It's still a divergence because money flow is increasing. Money flow put in a higher high as price put in a lower low. Still a divergence. So that is a very interesting thing to see, especially when you take into account the price action that we have above us. We got a very aggressive move here. What do we know about these aggressive moves, these fair value gaps or inefficiencies, whatever you want to call them? We know that they are very easy to reclaim because there's not a whole lot of structure within these. So there's not going to be a whole lot of strong resistance in terms of price action, which can make it very easy to just shoot straight back up through these. And it doesn't happen every time. Here is an example of one where it kind of took us a while to fill this, and we haven't even filled it entirely. We almost did, but price kind of bounced from, I guess, the midpoint, came back down to reclaim a little bit more of it. But over here is an example where we had a very quick reclaim of an inefficiency. Here's an example of one that did not get reclaimed entirely. We wicked up into it a little bit, but you can look around at price and see a lot of examples where we can get aggressive moves back up through these aggressive moves, or if they're aggressive moves to the upside, you can fill them to the downside very quickly. So already we could ask ourselves, is this something that would make me want to consider a long trade on a paper trading account? Yeah, potentially, but I would want to look through the lower time frames and try and build more of a case for this. Even if I'm going to, essentially take a long just based off of what I see on Market Cipher, I want to use more than just the 4-hour. So on the 3-hour, we do have a divergence with momentum, but money flow is not looking nearly as good. You could argue maybe we are in like a more regional uptrend where maybe we put in a higher low compared to this wave, and maybe this divergence could mark that low. You could argue that, but locally, money flow putting in a lower low is looking a lot different than the 4-hour is. If we go down to the 2-hour, we actually see the same thing. Div with momentum, not div with money flow. But based on the way that money flow on the 2-hour is, kind of starting to bottom out, apparently, because it's barely able to put in a lower low. It's been in the red for a while. You can kind of envision this starting to curve back to the upside at some point soon. You could argue that this money flow is closer to bottoming out than the 3-hour. And again, maybe the divergence with momentum can mark that low. and we do right now have potential to put in a higher low relative to this wave. So yeah, already we got a bit more context. We so far only have divergences with money flow and momentum on the 4-hour. On these two time frames, the 3-hour and the 2-hour, we're not really seeing as clear of signs. But if we go down to the 1-hour, this is starting to look a lot better for our idea. We have overall curvature and money flow looking nice. We have a divergence with momentum and money flow as we put in that recent low. And right now we're seeing money flow start to follow through in the green as putting in higher highs. We even got like another trigger wave here, another show of direction for this momentum curving to the upside. The 1-hour overall is looking good, which if you're looking at this as, the lower time frames could potentially influence the higher time frames and play into them, then you may say, well, this money flow direction on the 1-hour could theoretically cause this 2-hour money flow to start curving to the upside, and that could be a sign that, hey, this idea that I had on the 2-hour, with the momentum divergence marking the low in money flow and it starting to curve around, looks like the 1-hour is backing that up right now. I would start looking at the price action that's in front of me if I'm actually going to come up with a paper trading demo account long idea. Then I like to look at price action and come up with a more refined idea, essentially an idea where I can have a clear invalidation, whether that be below a significant low, below a significant point, like maybe the daily open, which is that gray dotted line right there. Maybe I want that to be my invalidation. I want to have some kind of setup locally so I, number one, can know exactly how much I'm risking on the idea, and also ideally get a better risk reward for my trade, and just in general have a better entry. And I'm probably not going to look at price action on this time frame. It's still too congested. I'll go down in time frames, but I will still look at market cipher. And we don't exactly see a momentum div. I guess there's a slight one. Technically, we put in a higher low compared to this wave. But overall, the money flow is still looking good. We had the curvature in the red right here. Money flow crossed up, and this curvature happened over here. Price went on to take out the low, put in a lower low, as money flow was higher than where it was at back here. It's diverging from this point, so we already saw the curvature. Now money flow is sticking in the green. So it's looking pretty good on the 45-minute, I would say. And locally, we're seeing a bit of a turn to the upside with momentum. We're seeing an uptrend. We're seeing a high put in, a higher low, and then a higher high. Pretty much the same story on the 30-minute, but money flow already crossed into the red. Could this be, a trigger wave of sorts with money flow? Essentially this being the anchor wave, money flow coming back down, getting a little move into the red, getting, a very tight curvature. It is crossing back up into the green right now. So, potentially. Now, here's where I want to start looking at price action on the 15-minute, because, again, we have a very similar thing. You could say the divergence with money flow started all the way back here on the 15-minute. Money flow is diverging this whole time, kind of increasing, putting in higher lows. And, on that last sweep of the low, we kind of put in equal lows to, what money flow is at these points. Not really that important because we see the divergences already on the higher time frames. But I want to look at this local bit of market cipher. Basically, how does it look while we're in this range? And we are seeing, number one, we already got overall curvature with money flow in the red. Not really good follow through, came back into the red. Now it's kind of bobbing up and down. But, we are starting to see signs of strength with momentum. Again, you can kind of see that overall trend where we just put in a higher high. We are putting a red dot right now, so maybe it needs to retrace, and maybe it needs to even put in another trigger wave. Maybe it comes back down below the zero line. So, I think we could look at this as an idea. Could we look for, a scenario where we get another trigger wave? We do notice that price did just take out what I would call the high of the range. So we wicked out the high. Now we're kind of retracing a little bit. Now, so far, after taking out the high, we came down and we found support on the VWAP. Did we hit off of any other significant levels? Let's check the fixed range pull. We are trying to hold the value area high. We wicked below the value area high. Now we're testing it again. As we are approaching VWAP again, VWAP moved up, so maybe we wick down into VWAP again. But you could say, maybe since we took out the high of the range, we're unable to get above it. Maybe now we come back within the, value area of the range. And maybe we look at the point of control as support. It is lining up with the daily open. So you could look at these areas of support, these areas of confluence, as zones that you might want to use to play into your idea on Market Cipher for extra confidence in the signs that I'm seeing on the midterm timeframes playing out in the short term. I might want some of these zones to hold as support, and I might want to see buying interest there. We already saw one thing that kind of goes against our idea. We were unable to break out of the range. Potentially, we're just retracing slightly within the range before actually attempting to break it. And maybe we can, get a little hint of this idea potentially playing out if we do find support in one of these areas, and if we start to see this trigger wave print on the 15-minute. And this is just one idea that I'm coming up with to potentially play into what I'm seeing on the higher time frames. If this idea gets invalidated, I could look for another idea. But as of right now, this is kind of what I'm looking at, and I'm gonna continue watching price action, and I'll look at Market Cipher on the lower time frames and see if I can actually come up with an entry here. All right, so I did enter a starting long position here. Price came down, hit the daily open, front ran this point of control, at least where it was at the time. And there is another confluence there that we front ran as well, which is, a reason why I didn't want to enter right here or enter a full position once we got a reaction and, put my stop loss right below this low. Because I think we may come back down for one more test to this low. We, front ran some important support, but I recognize that we may just front run it. We might not, come down to hit this level. And as you update the fixed range profile, the point of control actually moves. The point of control moved up, and in this case, we pretty much found support on it by wicking down below it. We got to move below, hit the daily open, and came back up and closed above it. And we wicked below it a few more times, but every time we couldn't close below it, so that was kind of a bullish sign for me. And I did enter, right about here, pretty much at the top of this local move. Not a great entry, and I do have a loose stop, so the risk reward to my potential target of this trade, like, somewhere up around where this inefficiency fills, is a 4-to-1 right now. For this big of a move, I would have liked the risk reward to be better, but, I'm not complaining about a potential 4-to-1, and if I get a chance to add to this trade, then, that would be better. I can maybe move my stop loss up, or I'll just have more in the trade. So if it goes against me after I add to it, it'll be more of a loss, but if I'm right, then it'll be more of a win. And essentially, I'm looking to add to this trade once we break above some of these anchored VWAPs. So uh, basically, I'm looking at anchored VWAPs from these two highs. I don't like the pull from the actual high because we broke above it significantly here, broke above it again right here. And, it's coming in around the same place as the anchored VWAP from this high anyway, so I prefer this one. Now, this one was, disrespected once. We did get above it here, came back down below it, so, I wasn't really loving this one either, but I'll still look at it. But this anchored VWAP from this high, pretty much where we disrespected the last one, this one is working very well. It's holding resistance very nicely. We even just got another test of it right here, and price is coming up to it right now. And this one is, aligning kind of with the value area high. So I'm looking to ideally get a move above actually all three of these. I wouldn't really add to this trade if we just get above these two and then start finding resistance on this one coming back down. That'd be a little sketchy. I kind of want to get above all of the anchored VWAPs, and then hopefully there's some kind of retest here. And if we come down and take out this low, if we wick it with an SFP and there's bullish divergences on Market Cipher and we start getting a reaction away, I may add a little bit to the trade then as well. And in that scenario, I would like that to happen before we break above the anchored VWAP. So at that point, I would also look to add on a retest. So that's pretty much how I'm looking to manage this trade right now. Now, we are kind of printing a trigger wave here. It is still technically putting in a higher low to this one, still showing direction, although it's not as good as I would like. And we also saw money flow get back into the red. Now, maybe it's just, kind of dipping back into the green a little bit. We have seen it struggle a little bit here, and it ultimately went higher. Maybe it's just coming back down, and, maybe it can continue putting in higher highs. That's the hope. It is still kind of putting in higher lows, or, at least compared to back here. And we do right now have the direction with momentum as well, so it's not looking terrible. So yeah, I will watch this trade and I'll make another update when something happens. Okay, so I did add to the trade here. We just SFP'd that low into the area I was looking for, and I saw what I wanted to see. We were forming divergences on Market Cipher with momentum clearly, and money flow was getting close. We didn't confirm the divergences until a little bit after, until right about here. So I was cautious to add to the trade as soon as we took out the low. I didn't add to it until this candle right here. I wanted to see the divergences start to confirm, or at least get very close to confirming. They confirmed on a 3 minute by the time I added, and I also wanted to see some kind of sign of price action. And what did it for me was this bullish engulfing candle. One candle closed above a previous candle open. So, this candle opened here, closed here. This candle did not close above this candle's open. This candle closed down here, so it did not close above this candle's open. This was the first one to actually close above a previous candle open. So that was another sign for me. So my stop loss is at the same spot. Now I have a 1.5% risk, and I'm not going to add to the trade until, again, we break above value area high, above the anchored VWAPs. And if I get a retest, I'll add to the trade, and I'll probably move my stop loss up to wherever the low is. If this ends up being the low, then I'll move my stop loss to probably just below there. Oh, and my new entry is right about here. My entry moved down because I added to the trade lower. So now risk reward is looking a bit better. I also forgot to mention something else, another confirmation I was looking at. But now price has gotten above the point of control, so far this ad is looking good, showing a bit of strength, but I want it to continue moving up and next break above the value area high. But another thing I was looking at is we did see some shorts open up right on that low. If I zoom in here, we saw a large increase of open interest. CVD went down, so we saw some people short the exact low, and that means there are some trapped shorts down there. So that was one more confirmation to go along with it. All right, it's now Sunday evening, and I want to quickly run over what has happened here. I just got home, spent all day doing Mother's Day activities. Shout out to my mom and my grandma. So yeah, what happened? Since I added to this trade, well, price got a move to the downside. Very scary move to the downside. When I woke up this morning, this was frightening. However, my trade did not get stopped out. Either I got very lucky or I'm just very good at choosing my stop loss placement. And there is a reason I put it down in this area. There was a little area of support I was looking at right below this low that we front ran. I think I mentioned that. And I put my stop loss loosely below that area. I'm not going to mention exactly what it is, but we did wick through the support zone that we had right below this. We actually went through it a little bit, which is why I'm glad I didn't put my stop loss right below it, but rather I left it loose because we wicked through it, but stopped right before my trade got stopped out and then reversed. And from there, we went on to seemingly break the range to the upside. We definitely broke above the anchored VWAPs. The anchored VWAPs came down a bunch. We broke above it here, found some support, and it seems like price is trying to go higher. Now, we did close it as an SFP of this local high on the 1 hour, so that is a little iffy for me. And following that, we did get a pretty serious retracement here. And unfortunately, I was not paying attention to price action as we got this retracement, because I probably would have added to this trade right around here as we dipped down right to my entry. This wick was in my opinion, the best chance to add a little bit to the trade. We already, broke above the anchored VWAPs, broke above the value area high, at least, got significantly above this local high over here. And, then this retrace, once I saw price waking up a little bit, I probably would have added there, but again, I wasn't paying attention at the time, and I also did not have great service, but that's all good. I already added to this trade once. I'm already in, a 1.5% risker for this, which means that this risk reward of 5% to the upside is based on a 1.5% risk. So, I'm not targeting a 5% gainer, but rather a 7.5% gainer. So now let's quickly run over how Market Cipher is looking. So on the 4 hour, I was looking at this. We did print a red dot on the 4 hour time frame. Played a little red dot, green dot with us. It was looking like, hey, maybe this divergence might want to flop over and maybe momentum wants to come lower. This was happening as price was dipping down towards my stop loss. But, it ended up being just a little turbulence here. And ultimately it ended up continuing upwards once we printed this, second green dot. And money flow is looking relatively strong. I would like to see money flow get above this local high over here, but so far it's still increasing locally. You can see a sort of trend here where maybe we're just coming down to make another higher low. Now the 3-hour, the money flow did curve up into the green, but it looks like we might print a trigger wave here. It looks like momentum's kind of struggling here. So I'm gonna hold my thoughts on the 3-hour until I take a look at the 2-hour. And here on the 2-hour, a few things I want to point out. Number one, this divergence with momentum seemingly, at least so far, has marked the low in money flow, like I thought it might. And from here, money flow got a move to the upside. It's looking pretty good so far, pretty strong. It's getting close to crossing the zero line. Potentially, we may see a bit more turbulence here if money flow curves back to the downside, maybe prints another higher low. We may see this overall curvature extended a little bit. And the reason I said I wanted to hold my thoughts on the 3-hour time frame is because the 2-hour and the 1-hour might give us a bit more context here. And on the 2-hour, we already did print a red dot up here, but we can see money flow is, pretty drastically increasing to the upside. And we can see that right now momentum is attempting to clip up. The VWAP is attempting to get a move to the upside. If I really zoom in here, it looks like we may print another green dot on this 2-hour pretty soon. You can tell that by the way the VWAP is sharply curving back to the upside and by how the momentum wave is starting to clip back to the upside. It looks like a green dot may print here, and we can go down to the 1-hour, and we actually see that we already did print a green dot here. VWAP already crossed. So with the added context of the time frames below the 3-hour, I'm not as concerned with this trigger wave printing, especially since money flow is also looking good on the 3-hour. I think even if a red dot prints, it may just be a temporary one. And going back to the 1-hour, we can see that momentum is in a very healthy trend. Even starting from this point where we actually started forming the divergences on the 1-hour, it's in an uptrend. So momentum put in a high, put in a higher low, put in a higher high. Even within this last leg of structure, we have an uptrend of higher highs and higher lows. Overall, it seems like things are looking strong, and so far I have not taken any profits out of this trade. I do have a limit order set somewhere up around this area, and I'm just going to sit on my hands and let this trade play out one way or another. I still have my stop loss at the same spot. If we come up to take out the high again, though, I probably will move my stop loss up, probably to at least, a little bit below this wick, below point of control, below daily open, but I don't want to do that until we touch this high again. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll check back in later when I have another development. All right, there we go. That's what I wanted to see. We got that fast move that I thought was possible. And luckily, I stayed up very late last night to enter another long position. So I am in 2 longs at the moment. I have taken profits out of both of them already. Basically, as price was retracing here last night, instead of adding to this trade, I actually saw a scalp entry. I decided to take a scalp long on another account, just so I could take profit on that trade, de-risk it separately from this trade. Sometimes I rather would do that than just add to a position, even if it's right on my entry. Because I did choose different stop losses for these trades as well. I put this stop loss right below this local low, and this stop loss was staying where it was at, below value area low, below this low. I woke up this morning and, well, we got that move that I was hoping for. Right now I have about 6% locked in for profits. I did take a 1.5% risk with this one as well. This one didn't start as that, but I added to it a little bit. And I will show you screenshots of both these trades. I didn't take a screenshot of this one as soon as I entered it, but I'll take screenshots of them both now to show you that, hey, I clicked the button. I'm not going to show you how much I made from the trades because, well, I have no obligation to share that personal information, and I just don't want to. At some point, I probably will, but hey, for all you know, I could be paper trading. The point is that I clicked the button at the right price point and at the right time. So now where are we at? Well, we are back at the high of what I would call the midterm range. I think this can be considered a range, with this being the original low, this being the high. We came down to sweep out the low. Now we're rotating back up towards the high. And so I'm going to be watching this price action carefully. If I see bearish signs, I'm going to start picking more profits out of these trades. If we SFP the high of the range with bearish signs, I'll definitely TP more out of these trades, and I might even look for some hedge short positions. And aside from that, do I think this trade can take us up to all-time highs? I think maybe, but number one, we would need to break out of this range first, and then we would need to break above, some of these significant highs. We need to start breaking above this high and above this high. And looking at the fixed range pull from all-time high, we do have some resistance coming up above us. We got the point of control of this range, so that's something I may want to have marked out. Yeah, I mean, I'd say if we can start breaking above point of control of this range, it's looking a lot more likely that we might actually start rotating to the upside, maybe even start pushing towards all-time highs. But this video is long enough, so I'm going to stop this video here, and depending on what happens with these trades, I may continue this in a separate video. But yeah, I'd say this was a success. I pretty much started off just doing top-down analysis on Market Cipher, found a potential idea on the midterm timeframes, and I was able to execute on it very well. This trade came very close to getting stopped out at one point. Even if this trade did get stopped out and I lost 1.5%, I would have gained so far just with this trade alone about 3.8%. So I would have made back my losses and then some, but I got kind of lucky and both of my trades stayed open. So yeah, it was a very nice few days of trading. All right, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment. That helps to support my channel, helps my channel to grow, and I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next video.